Did you find yourself feeling influenced by what was going on? Because you really, all along, have marched to your own drum and walked down the aisle alone.
No, I never thought that. I know that I was breathing the same air that everybody else was breathing, and you couldn't help.
But you stuck with the landscape, is what I mean.
Stuck with the landscape. I tell you what happened to me in 1963 in Italy. I was trying to paint a painting that would be a modern-day version of Van Gogh walking to do his landscapes. You know, he had his hat on and he's carrying a paint box and had a canvas strapped to his back. And I thought I would do that in the Italian landscape where I was at that point living. I kept moving the figure. First it was here, then it was there. And then finally I put it over here, you know. And then finally I painted it out altogether over the course of a whole summer. Well, as soon as I painted the figure out, I was happy because I felt free, you know. I felt free of all sorts of obligations that were inappropriate to the way I was painting at that time. Like to paint a figure in a landscape, what should that figure be doing, you know, aside from being Van Gogh, you know. So, what was happening actually in my surroundings, there were tractors and there was plows, being pulled by the tractors and so forth. And I didn't feel like painting a tractor, you know. In fact, my painting doesn't lend itself to tractors particularly. So I was forced to become a landscape painter for lack of any other impulse, you know. But I mean, basically, I'm a painter. What I care about is what colors do to each other and what brushstrokes do to each other, and what edges to use on things and so forth, which have nothing to do with being either a landscape painter or a figure painter or a still life, you know. I still am. I have the same idea. And I don't like very much to have to think about what subject to paint, you know. Because the more you think about the subject, the stiffer your painting gets, you know. I didn't want to paint any more bright colors because I thought, I was too influenced by other people when I was painting bright colors. So I went into these monotone type paintings, like this one over here, you know, which is all grays, going from dead white to the darkest gray that isn't black. So, and the way to do that is to make a row of tree trunks, with the spaces in between, such a way that the eye moves across the surface in a unobstructed way, you know, so you don't get pushed in and pulled out and so on.
And this is 1964, so this was...
No, this is actually, that's mistaken. That was, I think that was 62. Again, I was very influenced at that time by the ideas of minimalism. There was a friend of mine, Paul, well anyway, he was a minimalist painter. And also Ad Reinhardt. He was also an influence on me at that time.
Oh, I can see that.
So I mean, because all of these painters who liked to paint surfaces that had no obstructions in them. So I wanted to be a landscape painter who was a minimalist at the same time. And this is the kind of painting that came out of that, or this big one in here. And at the same time, I was also, I was friendly with Twalkoff,
Sure.
Abstract expressionist painter, and I like the idea of those very simple shapes. So that's where this painting comes from. Then I was also very influenced by seeing a show of Whistler's paintings. And Whistler also, in a way, was a minimalist because he tried to make everything disappear into an overall atmosphere, you know, especially in the nocturnes, in his landscapes. And I was living in Rome at the time. I went down to the river, and I did the Tiber. This is the other side of the Tiber with a bridge going across it, you know. But the whole thing in such a way that it presents again the idea of this unbroken surface of texture, you know. I mean, I didn't want people to first think about a bridge and so forth. I mean, I myself didn't want to think about it, you know. But I was very influenced by an wonderful Italian painter named Morandi that everybody loves even today. And Morandi used to make etchings that came from things he worked out on canvas, you know, with color. And he made black and white etchings from those. And that seemed to me to give me permission to do all sorts of derivative kind of work from my own work, you know. And made me...
Well, I often remember when I've been in the studio that I'll be admiring a painting and you will say to me, well, I want to keep that one because I think I want to feed from it, use it to work on another one, a larger version.
And then sometimes you also need a painting just to if you like a painting that you've done, you need to keep it around to help your morale. You know, because you know you're not always so self-assured as you ought to be. You need the support of some evidence that you've done something right at some point. You know, so that's why I keep a few paintings from my own archive, you know, in my studio. But Jerald came and he managed to pull out a few of those paintings that I thought were my archive that are now hanging here. He's a very convincing guy. Well, I went back to Italy and I won a Fulbright scholarship. First to be in Milan. And by that time I had a small daughter who was 2 years old, and she constantly had respiratory problems because you know, the air pollution in Milan is so terrible. I don't know if it still is, but it was then. I think it still is. And so we stayed there for like one season, and then got out and took an apartment in Rome. And in Rome, I had a studio away from the apartment, and I had to walk across the Tiber to get to my studio. That's why some of those bridge paintings come from. And in my studio, I made this painting here, which, believe it or not, hung in the Nixon White House for a while. They borrowed it. They didn't buy it, they borrowed it. I think they thought better of it. It's too sloppy. It's too nasty to be a Nixon painting, you know.
Now, how does this painting of cypress trees relate to the one in the other room we looked at that's a little more formal and structured?
I think they're about the same time, really. It's because I constantly try to keep a number of things going at one time. I've never thought much about making a style or making a consistent product, you know, that would make a sure. Very coherent show, because I don't have to. I'm too talented for that, you know.
You're right. Well, you're also, I think, an all over the canvas painter and an all over the studio painter, because I've seen you go from one corner of a canvas to the next and then go to another painting.
Oh yeah, I like to keep a number of things going at one time because I get bored very quickly, you know, especially if a painting doesn't take shape and gets me angry at it. You know, after a while I express my anger in the painting. If that doesn't make the painting take shape, then I put it aside and try to forget about it. But then a little later, you know, maybe months later, you turn it around and you see, well, there's one or two things that can lead you on to a new phase, and you take it up again. So I keep, in general, I keep about a half a dozen paintings going at one time. Many of them in totally different approaches.
And different points of completion.
Yeah, and of course different, yeah. Like I say, in different stages of undress.